Jeremiah was a prophet, and God spoke to him, telling him, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." But this is also true for each one of us. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. God knew you. God thought of you. God loved you. Before you were in your mother's womb, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I dedicated you, a prophet to the nations. God thought of you, loved you, and had a mission, has a mission for you, all before you were born. And so the words for Jeremiah are for each one of us. God also tells him, "Stand up and tell them all that I command you." God created you for him. And each of us in our own way are to listen to him and speak his word. Be not crushed on their account, as though I would leave you crushed before them. And know that God is our support, God is our strength, that he will help us. If he knew us before we were born, if he formed us in what he did, we can have faith in him. For it is I this day who have made you a fortified city, a pillar of iron, a wall of brass against the whole land. So God was preparing Jeremiah for his mission. But it's also true for us that it's God who has been forming us, God who has been preparing us, God who has been shaping us for the mission. And we again can have confidence in him that he has prepared us well, that he will give us the help that we need, that he has given us all that we need. They will fight against you, but not prevail over you. So, as with Jeremiah, entering into the mission, there will be problems, there will be difficulties, there will be opposition. I am with you to deliver you, says the Lord, which is why our strength is the Lord. Trusting, leaning on him. Jesus, of course, was the prophet, and he also had a mission before he was born. He also enters into his mission. And he speaks in Nazareth, and all spoke highly of him and were amazed at the gracious words that came from his mouth. And so, entering into the mission, it's true that people can praise. But every prophet was rejected. Every prophet met opposition. This is a sign that the prophet comes from God. And so Jesus also reminds the people with the two examples of the widow and also Naaman that they were unlikely choices for God to use. Humanly speaking, it's not who anyone would have chosen. And many times we just see things in human ways. But God picks the unlikely candidate. God picks the most unlikely so that it's more clear that it's God who's acting. So it's more clear that it's God who's moving. And Jesus entered perfectly into his mission, but also met opposition. Also in this gospel, it says that when the people in the synagogue heard this, they were filled with fury. And they rose up, drove him out of the town, and led him to the brow of the hill on which their town had been built, to hurl him down headlong. This is important because many times we think, if I enter into my mission, I shouldn't have problems. If I enter into what God's asking me, I shouldn't have difficulties. We see exactly the contrary always. Always. All the prophets, Jesus Christ, all the saints ran into opposition. Which is why they all leaned on God. They knew their strength. They knew their support was in the Lord. So who is the one who has formed us? Who is the one who's created us? Who is the one that's sending us on a mission? Who is the one who has formed us? Who is it that is saying that he is our strength? St. Paul, in the second reading, talks about love. But St. John tells us that God is love. And so what St. Paul is speaking about, love, also tells us who God is. And so we can replace the word love with God. This is the one who knew you, loved you, created you, and is with you. God is patient. God is kind. God is not jealous. God is not pompous. God is not inflated. God is not rude. God does not seek his own interests. God is not quick-tempered. He does not brood over injury. God does not rejoice over wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. God bears all things, endures all things. God never fails. So this word of love is important because we can do many things. We can spend our life on many things. We can be preoccupied with many different things. But as St. Paul tells us, without love, it's all nothing. It's nothing. If I speak in human and angelic tongues but do not have love, I'm a resounding gong or a clashing cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and comprehend all mysteries and all knowledge, if I have all faith so as to move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away everything I own, and if I hand my body over so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Because everything passes away except love. Because love is God. Love is divine. Love is eternal. Which is so important that we recognize exactly this. Everything else passes away. Which is so important for us to receive love, to allow love into our lives, to cooperate with love, to enter into the plan that love has thought of for us, to participate with love, so that love itself can act through us, so that our life can be one of love. But this is a love that we receive from God. And so we draw close to God. We allow God to enter into us. We allow him to enter into our lives. And then that's what enables us to love. And so these words can also be said about us. That you are patient, you are kind, you are not jealous, you're not pompous, you're not inflated, you're not rude, you don't seek your own interest, you're not quick-tempered, you do not brood over injury, you do not rejoice over wrongdoing, but rejoice with the truth, that you bear all things, believe all things, hope all things, endure all things. And so, the universe is created, the ground of all being is love, which means that we can trust love. We can allow love into our lives. It's through the Eucharist that love comes to us. It's through the Eucharist that love desires to enter into our lives. It's through the Eucharist that love desires to be in communion with us. And this is what enables us then to love the others, with a love that comes from God. And so, let's have confidence in this word, that God has thought of us, God has loved us, God has created us, God has prepared us, God is our strength. God is giving us the help that we need so that we can enter into our mission of love. And that we can, with God's grace, fulfill the mission that he has thought of for us, each uniquely, individually, before we are born, before we are formed in our mother's womb.